So today's notes, we are doing measurement conversions. How you measure things. So go ahead and write that. Or we use cups, ounces, anything like that. So what we're going to use, the method, is when given a ratio. Remember, ratio means we're dividing. And you are finding the unknown, set up a proportion. Or you can set up WKU. So I wrote the steps here. Underline key information, and then you're going to set up WKU right here. Okay. Looks like tic-tac-toe. The words, what you know, and the unknown. So let's do an example. It says Stephanie will be running a 10-kilometer race this spring. 1 mile is approximately 1.6 kilometers. Which measurement is closest to the number of miles of the race? So I'm going to underline everything that's important. We got this right here. It's telling us what our measurement are. It says 1 mile is approximately 1.6 kilometers. Okay? I want you to put a box over 1 mile, and I want you to put a box over 1.6 kilometers. Okay, the question, put a star next to the question. It says, which measurement is closest? Circle that word, closest, to the number of miles of the race. Closest means what? If it's closest, does that mean my number is going to be exact? No. That means it's going to be just about, or you're probably going to have to round here, okay? So we set up our WKU. I already went ahead and did that for you. We are going to, on our word side, what two measurements are we talking about? Okay, we're talking about miles and we're talking about kilometers. So I'm going to put M for miles and KM for kilometers. Those are the two things we are measuring. Okay, so what do we know? Now, I know you want to put 10 kilometers right where it says KM, right? I know that's the first thing you want to do. But it gave me a scale. It told me 1 mile is approximately 1.6 kilometers. That is going to go in my K column, okay? So I'm going to put 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers, KM. Don't forget to put your labels. Okay? Now the question's asking us, it said she's going to be running 10 kilometers. So that's where we're going to put in our last column, our unknowns. We know it's going to be 10 kilometers that she's running. We do not know how many miles that is. So you would put an X there. And if you remember, you're going to do the baseball method. You're going to multiply the numbers across from each other, 1 times 10, and then you are going to divide 1.6. For my Desmos people, you're going to put this in the calculator just like this, 1 times 10, then divided by 1.6, and you're going to get your answer. For my non-Desmos people, you're just going to have to multiply. 1 times 10 is 10, and then you're going to divide by 1.6. Now, in order for you to know what's going to go in the house, do the ice cream. The ice cream goes inside the freezer, 1.6 goes outside. You cannot divide a decimal from the outside, so you have to move it. We're going to move it over 1. That means we're going to do the same thing to the inside. I have to add a 0 as my placeholder. So I'm just going to rewrite this, 16 divided by 100, and I'm going to do my math. 16 goes into 1, 0 times. 16 goes into 10, 0 times. And 16 does go into 100. How many times? Well, I'm going to do my math over here on the side. Let's just pick a number. Let's pick 16 times 6 and see how close we can get to 100. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. That's pretty close, so I'm gonna put a 6. 16 times 6 is 96. I'm gonna divide 100 minus 96. Okay? So I cannot subtract 0 from 6. I have to borrow. The next number is a 0. I have to borrow one more time. Okay? We got 10 minus 6, which is 4. 9 minus 9, which is 0. Okay? I still have a remainder, so I'm going to have to add a decimal and add a 0 here. So 16 goes into 40. Let's see. 16, I'm going to multiply times 2. I'm going to see how close I can get to 40. 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I think that's pretty close. So I'm going to put 16 times 2, and I'm going to subtract 32. Gotta borrow because I cannot subtract 0 from 2. So 10 minus 2 is 8. I'm going to add one more 0 here. Okay, I gotta see how many times 16 goes into 80. So let's go ahead and do our math again on the side. 16 times, let's multiply by 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. Cool. Minus 80. And I finally got my 0. So that means that she's going to have to run 6.25 miles to reach that 10 kilometers there. Okay? Box your answer. Turn it over on the back. Okay, alright, next example. It says, on average, John eats 200 grams of sugar per day. I'm going to underline that because that looks like important information. 60 grams is approximately equivalent to 3 ounces. I'm going to put a box over these two because this is what's called my scale. Okay, my scale is going to go in the K column. Okay, it says about how many ounces is this? I'm going to put a star next to that question. And we are going to go ahead and set up our WKU. Now I'm looking at my scale. What two measurements are they comparing? They're comparing grams to ounces. So on top I'm going to put grams, and on the bottom I'm going to put ounces. OZ is short for ounces. Okay, I'm going to use my scale again. It says 60 grams is approximately equivalent to 3 ounces. So 60 grams, 60 goes on top because it's about grams, and 3 ounces goes on bottom. Make sure that you keep your numbers together with your labels. The top is talking about grams, then this number is better be grams. Okay? Now my unknown. So how many grams did he eat? It says 200 grams of sugar per day. So is that number going to go on top or bottom? Well, what number is talking about grams? It's talking on top. So 200 is going to go on top. My question's asking how many ounces this is. So I don't know my ounces. So this is where we're going to start doing our baseball method now. You are going to cross multiply the numbers across, and then divide by 60. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. My Desmos people, parentheses 200 times 3, and then divide by 60. Then you'll get your answer. My non-Desmos people, we're going to have to multiply 200 times 3. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 2 is 6. Now I have to divide it by 60. Okay, remember, if you don't know what number goes inside, you have to do the ice cream. 600 goes inside because the ice cream's in the freezer, and 60 goes outside, the cones. So let's see. 60 can go into 6, 0 times. 60 can go into 60 one time. Subtract it, and then our 0, we're just going to bring it at the top. So our answer is 10 ounces. That's how many ounces he eats a day. Okay, I'm going to let you do this one by yourself. I'm just going to read it. Example 2, it says Hayden used 285 gallons of water this month. I'm going to underline that. That's important information. There are approximately 3.6 liters in 1 gallon. Remember, you're boxing this part because this is your scale. That's what's going to go into the K. Okay? Which measurement is closest to the number of liters Hayden used during this month? Put a star next to your question. Okay? Figure out what two things are you comparing. It tells you in your scale. You're going to put on top, it's comparing liters to gallons. So I'm going to put liters and gallons on bottom. You're going to fill out the rest and then cross multiply and divide. I'm going to move on to the next one. Example 3. Leslie bought 5.2 gallons of gas. I'm going to underline that. Looks important. There are approximately 3.8 liters in 1 gallon. Which measurement is closest to the number of liters of gasoline Leslie bought? So I'm going to put a star next to that question. Okay, this one gives me answer choices. So remember, if we're talking about closest, we're going to talk about the answer choice that is closest to the answer we get. Okay? So, let's start it off. We have our measurements. We got to do WKU. Our words, what two measurements are we comparing? We're going to look at our scale. Our scale is right here. Approximately 3.8 liters in 1 gallon. So I'm going to put liters on top and gallon on bottom. I'm going to put liters for short and then G for gallons. So I know that 3.8 liters is in 1 gallon. What I don't know is how many liters that makes, so I'm going to put an X. I do know how many gallons it is. It's 5.2. Okay, cross multiply and divide. Again, does most people. Parentheses 3.8 times 5.2, and then divided by 1. You'll get your answer. For everybody else, we're going to have to do the math. It looks like I'm multiplying 2 decimals here. Do you have to line up your decimals when you are multiplying? No, you do not. Okay, so I'm going to multiply. I got 2 digits. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41. Now I'm going to do my placeholder because I'm working on the second digit. You got to put a 0 first. Now 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 5 is 15. I'm going to add those numbers up. 6 plus 0 is 6, 1 plus 6 is 7, 4 plus 5 is 9, and we got 1. Now I'm going to see how many numbers I have behind the decimal. I have 1, 2. So that means I'm going to start on the right side and move my decimal 2 places. So my answer is 19.76. And that is in liters. Okay, so what answer choice is it? Let's see. Alright, you're going to do the last one. It says, the check-in, a building has a height of 15 feet. You should be underlining that. There are approximately 3.28 feet in 1 meter. Remember, that's my scale. Which measurement is closest to the height of the building? So remember, closest means you're not going to get the exact number. Okay, so when you look at your answer choices, just make sure that whatever you get is closest to that answer. Okay, when you're finished, you're gonna come see me so I can check off example 2 and the check-in, and that's it.